New York City is unlike any other city that I know of in the United States as far as rents and requirements are concerned. So the long story short is that the average apartment here in Manhattan specifically is going to cost about $4,000 a month. The general rule of thumb for most landlords is that they will accept 40 times the monthly rent as a gross income that I would need to make to apply or to be accepted. That's a generally accepted rule of thumb that most brokers and landlords are requiring for tenants to move. There is a little bit of wiggle room, but what you'll find is that most people can afford and know what they can afford, and we're not really in a market in which the landlord has to turn, the landlord more often than not is going to have to turn people away, and they have their pick of who they want to move in. So when you think about the average apartment is $4,000, 40 times that number, your gross income needs to be around $160,000 in order to afford that apartment. So again, it's a lot of money, but there's a lot of money flowing through the city, which is why people want to be here. There's a limited amount of supply, and truthfully, landlords have been getting much less rent over the last 3 years just since the pandemic. Before we started the pandemic in 2020, I think we had hit a peak number for rent, asking rents in December. So this was coming. I don't think people saw it coming to this severity, but that's where we're at. As far as guarantor requirements, so if I can't afford the $160,000, what else can I do? There are companies that will guarantee for a small fee, will guarantee someone an individual tenant. I know in particular our landlords don't. They have a choice of who they can choose, and they will typically pass on someone that has an outside guarantor. Most of our guarantors ideally are within the tri-state area. They're not in another country because it's hard to sue someone that lives in another country. And then from there, if the asking price is $4,000 again, my guarantor will need to make 80 times the monthly rent, which ends up being $320,000. I know it sounds crazy, but there are parents and families and people that will guarantee their kids. It used to be possible to, if you didn't qualify but you had savings, you could pay for a full year up front. If you had a guarantee from outside of the city or the state, they could pay for a full year up front. You had a lot of foreign parents from Asia, from Europe, that were South America as well, that were just paying for their kids for the full year. But legislation and politics took that away. And now those kids are kind of stuck in a situation that is hard to get out of, because again, in a competitive environment, there are plenty of people that have the $160,000 and they're not having to you're not doing extra paperwork, and you're not having to file lawsuits in other cities and states if they don't pay. So the landlords have pick of the litter at this point. So it's kind of put foreign visitors and tenants in a bad position, because in most situations they may come with cash and enough money to put a large deposit down, but they're not allowed to do that. So it levels the playing field for them, or at least raises it puts them in a second or third position. So 40 times rent, 40 times monthly rent is a requirement for tenants, 80 times monthly rent for the guarantors. It's pretty straightforward. And I'll get to in other videos what other requirements that you'll need to come prepared to open houses and meetings and things like that, so that you can put yourself in a better position to win, because it's hard out there right now, and I don't see this getting any better anytime soon. That's it for now. I'm Mike Baker of Compass. I will talk to you later.